Claude's auto mode just changed AI coding. And if you use Claude Code for anything in your business, this is the update you've been waiting for. Anthropic just shipped a new permission mode called auto mode with Claude Opus 4.7. And it solves the biggest pain point that people have with Claude Code since day one. Let me point and paint the picture for you. So, up until this week, you had two choices when running Claude Code. Option number one, the default, right? So, every time Claude wants to write a file, run a command, it stops and asks you, you click yes, you click yes, you click yes again, over and over. It was safe, but it was slow. You can't just walk away. You can't just go and make a coffee. You sit there clicking approvals for an hour. Now, you also had option two, which was the Wild West, right? And this was a flag called Dangerously Skip Permissions. The name tells you everything, right? You turn it on, and Claude does whatever it wants. No checks, no breaks. It can delete your files. It can leak your data. It can run bad code. It was fast, but it was also scary. And most people running real businesses hated both options. It was either too slow or too risky. There was no middle ground. Auto mode is the middle ground now. And it just dropped with Claude Opus's release today. Here's how it works in plain English. So you can turn on auto mode, Claude starts doing its thing, and before every single action it takes, a little safety checker looks at what Claude is about to do. If the action looks safe, then it runs and it goes ahead, starts working, right? If the action looks risky, it gets blocked and Claude has to try something else. If Claude keeps trying to do the risky thing over and over again, then it finally stops and asks you. So you only get interrupted when something actually matters. The rest of the time, Claude just works. Think of it like this. You hire a really smart developer. You tell them, go and do this project. But you also put a supervisor next to them. The supervisor only steps in if the helper tries to do something stupid, right? So the helper just gets to work, you go do other things, and that's auto mode. Now, let me tell you why this matters so much for your business, because this is where most people are going to miss a point. The whole game with AI right now is speed. Not how smart the AI is, but how long you can let it run, how far you can step away. The longer the agent can work on its own, the more it gets done, and the more money you save and the more leverage you have because it's automatically just autonomously running in the background. Now, a year ago, AI agents could run for maybe 2 or 3 minutes before they broke or needed you to step in. Then we got 30 minutes. Then we got to a few hours. Now we're seeing agents run for entire days on real work. But here's the catch. To run an agent for a full day, you have two choices. You sit there and click approve every 30 seconds, or you turn off all the safety stuff and pray. Nobody was going to do the first option. And the second option is how people lose data, lose client files, lose trust with their customers. Auto mode finally cracks this. Now, if you want to go deeper on stuff like this, come join us in the AI Profit Boardroom. We've already built a full setup guide for Claude Code with auto mode turned on, the exact permission settings to use for client work, and 4 live coaching calls every week where we walk through real Claude workflows that run overnight. There's 2,800 business owners in there, a lot of them running Claude Code right now for client projects, content, and lead gen. A prompt library built around Claude workflows, a member map so you can connect with other Claude Code users near you. Link in the comments description or go to the AIProfitBoardroom.com. Now, let's get back to auto mode. And let me get into the actual mechanics because the details here really matter too. Anthropic built a classifier, right? A classifier is just a small AI that looks at one thing and decides good or bad. In this case, before Claude Code runs a command, the classifier reads the command and asks, is this going to do something destructive? It's watching for 3 main things. Number 1 is master deleting files. So if Claude tries to wipe out a whole folder, the classifier catches it. Stealing or leaking data, if Claude tries to send you private info somewhere, it shouldn't go, it gets blocked as well. And also running bad code. If Claude tries to run something that looks like malware or an attack, it gets blocked too. When the classifier says no, Claude doesn't just give up. It has to find another way. It tries a different approach, a safe one. And if Claude keeps bashing its head against the wall, trying to do the same risky thing over and over, then yes, it finally gives up and asks you. So in practice, you barely get interrupted. The approvals you do are the ones worth looking at. Now, I want to be really honest with you about what this is and what it isn't, because Anthropic themselves have been very clear about this in the launch post. Auto mode is safer than the dangerous skip flag, but it's not perfectly safe, right? Anthropic still recommends you run it in what they call an isolated environment. That just means don't point Claude Code at your most important files, right? Don't run it on your main computer with all your client passwords sitting around. Set up a clean folder, let it work inside there. The classifier can still make mistakes as well. Sometimes it will let an action run through that probably should have been blocked because the situation was unclear. Sometimes it will block something that was actually fine and you'll have to step in. That's a trade off. It's not perfect, but it's way better than nothing. There's also a small cost bump here as well, right? So every time Claude goes to take an action, the classifier has to run first. That costs a tiny bit of money and adds a tiny bit of time as well. But we're talking fractions of a cent and fractions of a second for the ability to walk away and just let Claude Code work for 3 hours. I mean, that's amazing, right? That is an autonomous AI agent that gets stuff done. Now, right now, auto mode is a research preview on the team plan. If you're on team, you can turn it on today. Enterprise and API users get it in the coming days. Pro and Max users, you'll have to wait a bit. It works with both Sonnet 4.6, Sonnet 4.7, Sonnet Opus 4.6 as well. And for developers, you turn it on with a command called enable auto mode. Then you cycle it to the auto mode with Shift plus Tab. On the desktop app and the VS Code extension, you flip it on in the settings under Claude Code, then pick it up from a dropdown. And admins, you have full control. So you can turn auto mode off for your whole team if you want, using a setting called disable auto mode. On the desktop app, it's actually off by default. You have to go into organization settings and flip it on. And that's the how. Now, let me get into the why this is a bigger deal than it actually looks. If you're sitting there thinking, cool, a permissions update, who cares? Stay with me. The real story here is what auto mode actually unlocks. It unlocks long tasks. It unlocks walking away. It unlocks AI actually doing work whilst you sleep. Here's a simple example. So let's say, for example, you run a business. You've got a stack of customer emails that need personal replies. You want Claude to go through each one and write a reply in your voice, save it as a draft, and then move on to the next. That's a 2-hour job if you do it yourself. With default permissions, it's also a 2-hour job because you're sitting there clicking approve on every single draft. With auto mode, you turn it on, walk it away, you turn it on, walk away, come back in an hour, and you've got 50 drafts ready to review. One simple shift, hours back. Another one, for example, let's say you run an agency. You need to build the same starter website for every single new client. With auto mode, Claude can set up the folder, create all the files, install the tools, have a working starter ready to go in minutes, right? Then you check in at the end of each session. One more, you have a pile of messy data from your own business, maybe spreadsheets with bad formatting, receipts in different formats. You want it all cleaned up into one neat file. Auto mode lets Claude just chew through it whilst you do a sales call, for example. These are not crazy developer examples. These are normal business jobs that used to take a human a whole afternoon. Now they take an AI an hour, and you're not even in the room to see it working. And here's what I want you to really sit with, right? The gap between people who learn how to use this stuff and people who don't is growing by the week. Every single update from Claude Code, every new permission mode, every new setting makes a tool more useful. Every person who's already using it gets a tiny bit more leverage. Every person who isn't falls a tiny bit further behind. A year from now, there will be two kinds of business owners: the ones who learn to run these agents overnight and wake up to finish work, and the ones still doing that work by hand at their desks. And I don't say that to scare you. I say it because it's true. And the runway to catch up is shorter than most people think. Now, a few things people keep asking me about this release. Is auto mode the same as auto plan mode that some other tools have? No. Other tools have a model where the AI just picks a plan and runs with it. Auto mode is about permissions, not planning. It's about what actions get approved automatically and not about what Claude decides to do. Now, also, some people ask, does auto mode work with existing Claude Code skills and plugins? Yes, it sits on top of everything you already use. The same skills, the same MCP service, the same plugins. It's just how permissions get handled, not what Claude can do. Can you use auto mode for production work? Anthropic's own guidance is careful and be careful. Anthropic's own guidance is be careful. Use it in isolated environments. Don't point it at your most sensitive stuff. Do it at work where a mistake is recoverable. What about long-running jobs like file cleanup or research? Well, this is where it shines. Tasks that used to require you to babysit now run on their own. You set it up, walk away, come back. And you might also ask, will I save more money with it? Well, it is slightly more expensive per action because of the classifier. It's way cheaper overall because you can run bigger jobs and stop paying a human to click buttons. Now, let me bring this all back to the main thread. For a long time, Claude Code had this really one sharp edge. It was an amazing tool, but you had to sit there and babysit it, or you had to throw out all the safety stuff and just hope. Most smart business owners did neither. They just didn't use it for long jobs. They used it for short, small tasks where approvals were fine. Auto mode opens up the door to the long jobs, the overnight jobs, the whilst you sleep jobs, the stuff that actually changes what your business can do. And that's why this launch matters. It's not a shiny new feature, it's a thing that was missing for the tool to actually be useful for real long work. If you've been waiting for a reason to try Claude Code in your business, this is it. Start small. Pick one recurring task that eats an afternoon of your week, something messy but safe, cleaning up a spreadsheet, drafting replies, sorting a folder, for example. Turn on auto mode, set it running, and go do something else for an hour. When you come back and see it finished, you'll get it, you'll feel it, and then you'll start looking at every other task in your week through new eyes. That one experience changes how you run your business. And that's the thing. And look, if you want help getting there faster, this is exactly what we do inside the AI Profitable Boarding. We've built a full Claude Code playbook for business owners, not for coders, for agencies, for freelancers, for creators, for e-commerce operators who want to set up auto mode right the first time round. You get 4 live coaching calls every single week where people bring up their Claude Code setups and we fix them live. Daily tutorials with step-by-step videos, including a fresh one on auto mode, a 30-day roadmap that takes you from zero to running overnight agents in your business, and a prompt library full of Claude Code workflows that already work, and a member map so you can find other Claude Code users near you, meet up, share what's working. There's 2,800 business owners in there, a lot of them running Claude Code for client work right now. There's always someone online too, 24/7. Link in the comments description or go to theairprofitable.com to get access. Auto mode is here. The era of babysitting Claude Code is over. The overnight era is starting. The only question is whether you're going to be one of the people running it or one of the people watching your competitors pull ahead whilst you're still clicking approve. I'll see you in the next one.